This presentation of Marshall Rosenberg, entitled Intimate Relationships, is part of the Corona 2000 recording series.
Have a specific intimate relationship in mind that you'd like to rapidly apply the process to. Okay, so there's several. Okay, so we will, you have no problems in your intimate relationship. After all I've given to you, you still are not satisfied.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's satisfied.
The jackals are yapping at your heels.
Yes. Always. They're consistent. Okay, so what we will do is we'll, this morning and this afternoon, use those relationships to try to give you an active chance to practice, stopping them from time to time to help make some clarity of theory that we can all use. So let me give you about 5 minutes of theory and then a warm-up exercise everybody can do, and then we'll get into the relationships. First, the theory. I'd like to get clear how I use the word love. It's to me obviously a very important word. If all of the basic religions on the planet kind of stress this concept, it obviously has been important for us as human beings for a long time all over the planet. And I tried to figure out why several years ago, every time I heard the word love, I wanted to vomit. And I realized that I had gotten exposed to such a disgusting and tragic definition of it in the culture in which I grew up. So let's, just for fun, just the first thing that pops into your mind, love is what? Write it down. What is love? So real quick, let's just hear a few of these. What is love? Yeah.
Feeling full.
Feeling full.
Joyful.
Joyful.
Making someone else's needs as important as your own.
Making someone else's needs as important as your own, yeah. Learning.
Laughing and playing together.
Laughing and playing together. Hell. Irrational.
Moment by moment feeling of connection.
Moment by moment feeling of connection. Yeah.
Power, nurturing, weakness, control, and loss. Ooh.
That's your associations. That's what I asked him for. Yes, that's his.
Acceptance, caring, desiring the greatest good for the beloved, mystery.
For me, the one that I came to aware that was I didn't trust the word love very much is, for me, it was a feeling. It was like a warm, gushy, cuddly, tender feeling, which is what I thought love was. And this threw me off in learning what the major religions had to offer me for a long time, because when I read, love your enemy as yourself, or oh yeah, I'm supposed to have warm, gushy feelings toward Hitler. Forget it. And so I thought that if that's what love is, it's bullshit. But of course, I then started to see, no, there had to be some beauty that I was overlooking, and I must not be understanding things. So essentially what for me now love is a very precious need. It's a need, a central need of human beings. That's how I use it. It's my definition as I use it. It's a need. But now, because it's such a central, important need, it's real clear, if ever we were clear about present requests. That's one that we need to get crystal clear about, being clear what we want from other people to meet the need. Because again, in the culture I grew up in, the way I was taught to define the actions to meet this need for love were pretty sickening also. just the music. If you listen to the music, you know, I ain't nothing without you, baby, and it was like love almost always meant not to be oneself. One was to be a slavish appendage to this other creature, dependent on this other, had dependency all mixed up, a lot of scary stuff in it. So it took me a while to get clear, what actions do I want from other people to meet my need for love? Recently someone gave me a book, I wish I could think of the author's title of it, some of you may know about it. They did some research about how there's really about 5 different kinds of things that different people want to meet their need for love. And then in intimate relationships, if the two people have different requests for love, they don't realize that the reason the other person's love isn't getting met is that they just have different requests for it. So let's imagine that someone asks you the most wonderful giraffe question, a central giraffe question. What could I do to make life more wonderful for you? And specifically, please tell me what I could do to meet your need for love. So, assuming that for a while you're willing to go with my definition of the word love as a need, so what could, if somebody wanted to know what they could do?
I would like to know if the other person really loves me, he knows what would make me happy. Why I have to tell him this? It's really, at the beginning of our relationship, he exactly knew what made me happy.
So what would keep this person from just knowing what you want so you don't have to say it?
Just he knew it at the beginning of the relationship.
So you're saying then that your request would be for this person to keep on knowing it without you having to say it.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the most frequent request that I think people have of love, that you just somehow intuit and always do it. And the divorce lawyers they love that definition. Because in a short time, after this honeymoon phase, when we have this ESP, then we define that the love is no longer there when somehow this guessing ability is no longer there. So that's your request, that I keep guessing what you want without you having to say it.
Yeah, that's quite normal. Everybody knows what does it mean. Sorry, but I got this feedback many times.
Yes, but then if it works that way, then you should know that I don't want that definition, so why are you having that definition? I'll give you a few moments for round 2. So, how would you answer the question right now? Yes, what would you want the other person to do to meet your need for love?
I think a couple of things that I would like to see.
Yeah.
Would be caring.
Not doable. It's got to be a doable request. So that's one of the most frequent thing that gets in the way of intimate relationships, asking for something that isn't doable.
Again?
Here, making requests that are not doable. Like if you want to really mess up a love relationship, define your thing that the person has to have certain feelings for you.
Make me happy.
Not doable. Because when we get to the detoxifying the concept of responsibility, of course, it's real important to be conscious that your partner can't make you happy or sad. They can't hurt you or make you angry.
Can you be happy?
You want the other person to be happy. Not doable. So what are doable requests that would meet your need for love?
I would like a kiss first thing in the morning when we first wake up and see one another.
Now,
Greet one another.
I'll be a giraffe partner. I could give you the kiss. Can I do it even though I want to kick your ass? Or
Yes.
does there have to be certain feelings in it? So as long as it can be a toxic kiss, you just don't care what the feelings are behind it.
Exactly.
Okay, that's doable then.
Even before brushing teeth?
Even before brushing teeth. toxic breath, toxic thoughts.
Just you want to kiss. Just that much time and that much energy to make connection with you in the form of a kiss. Very specific. Very specific. What else? What other requests would you have? Yes.
Mine is to have my head and my hair tended.
Again, you don't care about the feelings behind it. Just if you can have... For how long? See, I've learned to ask that. For how long?
3 hours.
Oh boy, would that be a relief? Not all night.
Oh. I'm just being smart.
Oh, I see. So, any amount of time?
At least 30 seconds. Doesn't need to be much longer than 2 minutes.
Okay, but every day?
Yes.
Okay, every day, yes.
Will we measure the time? Will we measure the time?
What else would you want from people to meet your need for love?
I'm in the relationship right now, and my pain around it is that I want to be able to say my pain without him jumping to trying to fix it, or he's feeling responsible for it.
Now, you just expressed your request in the negative, what you don't want. Oh. And of course, as a giraffe, you know you're not likely to get your needs met unless you state your request in the positive. So what do you want from this jackal?
I want to be there to just hear my pain.
Too vague. Hear the pain is too vague. It's not doable. Because jackals will always say, I hear it. I understand what you're saying. They think they do. They're not lying. But they're understanding what their ears hear.
Oh, okay. I want to reflect what you heard me saying.
Okay.
Yes. And I just want to hear without you hearing any criticism.
So I just want your presence, just for your attention to my feelings and needs. And at any moment that you hear anything that sounds like a criticism or a demand, raise your hand to stop me, because for every second you hear a criticism or a demand coming out of my mouth, our relationship will suffer. For every second.
And give me space that I can navigate to my own solution.
And before you give me any advice, please make sure I have submitted a request in writing signed by a lawyer.
No, yeah.
See. Do not try to give me any advice or fix it unless you receive such a request in writing notarized.
And when you say something in jackal way, I try to translate into in giraffe. Don't jump and tell me that's martial talk.
Now, that's what you don't want. So you want me to say that's Rosenberg talk. See, saying what you don't want does not make clear what you do want. Okay. I know this kind of jackal's mind.
So how do I make a request that in positive giraffe way?
I'd like you to tell me back what my reasons are. I'd like to tell you what my reasons are for asking for this as often as I will in our relationship. And then I'd like you to tell me back so I know you see the difference between what you're presently hearing it as and what I intend and what need of mine is met by it. Huh? Well, let me try it again in fewer words. How do you take it when I ask you to tell me back? It's some psychological game, like you think I'm not intelligent enough. You know, like you're a school teacher, you know, giving me a test. Thank you for telling me that's what you hear. So what I'd like to do is tell you what my reason is for doing this as often as I do. And tell me back so I can see that you hear a difference between what my reasons are and what you now are interpreting them to be. So would you be willing to at least do it this one time, to tell me back what my reason is? Go ahead.
And then he says, no, I don't feel safe to open my mouth.
Oh, well, then he's really making life easy for you, because if you have giraffe ears, he's teaching you how to get both your needs met. See, if you can hear the need behind a no, the other person is teaching you how to get everybody's needs met.
He needs empathy.
He's telling you what need of his needs to be met in order for him to meet your need.
He needs for safety.
Yes. So until you can receive a no as a memnoon, it will be very hard to enjoy intimacy. You don't know what a memnoon is. Okay, I'm sorry to put you to such a spot. Would you explain a memnoon?
She raised her hand first.
So once again, until we can receive a no as a memnoon, any kind of intimacy is going to be hard to enjoy for more than a honeymoon period.
Of course, this is putting a memnoon in a whole different light, but a no in this case, I assume, would be a request.
A no is always a request.
Okay.
A no is always a need and a request if we hear it accurately.
Can you say it again then?
Well, you have blessed me. You have given me this gift to give you the gift of what you've requested.
The opportunity.
The opportunity, and so I'm almost in your debt for having asked me.
It's such a big blessing.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it.
Exactly.
Yes. And
he's always given me that feeling, no matter what I have asked.
then you know you're not going to have to pay for it, whatever he does.
Not only that, I know that I'm convinced that I've made him happy by asking.
Yes. It's a total giraffe consciousness, which is what I've been trying to say for my whole career, is what the kind of giving is that I'm trying to create in this process of giraffe.
And then there was another, I don't think he's here. Oh yes, here you are. Do you want to give your part, Earl?
In Judaism, it's the same concept. It's called a mitzvah, which is a blessing or a good deed. That when you ask somebody to do something for you, you're giving them an opportunity to be of service, and that is a blessing.
See, so if you hear any rejection, you almost guarantee to take the joy out of giving. If you even have the concept of a rejection in your consciousness, it's going to make intimacy very difficult. So for me, the most important parts of an intimate relationship is to receive a no as a memnoon, as a mitzvah. The person is giving me an opportunity to meet a need of theirs. A no is always a tragic expression of a need. Tragic if the other person has jackal ears on, then they hear it as a rejection. If we have giraffe ears on, it's a gift. That person is telling us what need of theirs they're trying to meet that keeps them from meeting our need. Then it's a memnoon.
So you said if you have rejection in your consciousness, what was the rest of that?
It's going to be hard for other people unless they have big giraffe ears to enjoy giving to you, because to whatever degree they see pain in your eyes because you hear a rejection, to whatever giving in the future they give to keep you from interpreting being rejected, when they didn't really want to do it but they're afraid of how you're going to take it, you pay for it because it takes the pure stuff out of the giving. Now the person is giving to avoid you freaking out because of the pain you create for yourself by taking it as a rejection. So to whatever degree you think that is possible, you see, to whatever degree you think that's possible, that if I don't give, the person's going to take it as a rejection. They're not going to see the memnoon in my telling them what keeps me from giving. So to whatever degree they see rejection, and I have a trace of that, oh my God, if I don't do this, the person's going to freak, and then I'll feel guilty, and it takes all the beauty out of giving. It takes all the blessing out of it.
Marshall, there's another small part to this. On the few occasions, truly a few occasions, when I have made a request and he's not able to give it to me, he will never say no to me. I will get this look. And the look I translate as, God, I'd love to give it to you, and I don't know if I can do it right now.
Because I have another need that keeps me from saying yes. Pure joy. Why do I love your husband and I've never done it?
Because I do.
Because of what?
Because I do.
You do.
And so then I will say to him, it's okay then, you're having a hard time doing this and it's perfectly fine with me. And he'll go, oh, okay.
So she's receiving his no as a gift.
I'm sorry, I'm feeling dense getting this concept. And
thank you. maybe it's because there's so many words attached to it, I'm not sure. The memnu part, I'm going back to. So I have a ease at getting when you can say yes to it, to a question, a request, and how that feels. And I'm missing, maybe it's because I'm in different roles, differing sides of when there's a no.
I'm saying
so
the only thing that human beings are ever saying is please and thank you. So I'm saying there is no no. It's just a request. If you are hearing
so
accurately,
someone asks for a request and the other person asks for another request.
Yes. You have two gifts on the table. First gift, and then the gift behind the no.
Which is another request.
Yes. And if two people have this consciousness, all they hear ever coming from one another is a thank you or a gift.
So could we put that into something concrete?
Yeah, let's...
Like gifts and
requests? What would be the situation? You ask for something. Does somebody else want to do it then if you can't enjoy it?
Yeah, I think that would be easier. I think
Who wants to make a request?
Kind of
now,
take it in better.
You make the request.
Yeah, I'd like a 40-minute back rub.
And gosh, I'm torn right now because part of me would really enjoy doing that. And part of me is just really enjoying the calm and quiet that I've been experiencing. So would you be willing to wait another 30 minutes? That would give me...
Yeah, and I hear that you're really, it's meeting a deep need of yours for calm and quiet and serenity right now to spend more time alone.
Yeah, so he now doesn't feel any rejection. He has given me a gift. And I've given him a gift by giving him the chance to give me that. But now that was fairly easy because I played my role as a giraffe. Now our real test is when we communicate this way. Try it again.
Yeah, I'd love that 40-minute back rub.
Jesus, you are the most demanding person I ever know. I just gave you one last month.
So you're feeling a high level of frustration right now because there's a lot of things you'd like to do and you don't know how to get them all.
Yes, but see, I grew up not thinking of my needs as a gift. So I can't imagine that my needs would be a gift. So as soon as I hear his needs, I feel like it's a demand. So that's not easy with such a partner who hears requests as demands. Now, he's lucky because I made it pretty obvious. His life would have been made worse if I had done this. So watch again. We're going to do the same game again. Start again.
Yeah, I'm feeling really tight and I could use a back rub.
Okay. He's going to pay for it if he gets it. He's going to pay for it. Because, but here's the worst, the most dangerous one of all. Watch this one now. Watch out if you're frightened of jackals. Be careful.
So before we go on, how do you handle that last one?
If you have giraffe ears, you know it was a yes that isn't so. So you don't allow a person to meet your needs coming out of that energy. See, you have a detector. You have to have a built-in detector in your relationship so that before you allow a person to meet any of your needs, they have to pass this test. That what they're doing is motivated only out of memnoon energy. There isn't a trace of motivation in them doing it because they're afraid they'll be punished if they don't. Hoping that you will love them more if they do. A reward, in other words. No guilt, no shame, no concept of duty or obligation. So you have to have a detector, so that you never allow your partner to do anything for you that has even a trace of those things in, because the toxics will build until one day.
It's really hard for me to hear a request because I take it on as demand.
Galahad syndrome.
Yeah. And
Galahad syndrome, see, the men get the Galahad syndrome in our culture, that if you're a real man, you come to the rescue of anybody in pain in your family. You have to have solutions and advices. Women, it's the same game, but a little different. You know, if you're a loving woman, you don't have needs. You sacrifice your needs for others and so forth. But it's basically the same game. Love is sacrifice. Yes.
So Marshall, can we like complete those role plays? Like switch, how would you handle it if you get the, okay.
Now, right away, my energy level is I'm nervous. And so I say to the person, I'm feeling really tense right now. And I would really appreciate it if you would look inside to make sure none of the other is motivating you. Any fear of how I'll respond if you don't. Any belief that if you do, I'll love you more. Any concept of guilt if you don't. Shame if you don't. Any concept of duty or obligation. Please, 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 if any of those are mixed in, do not do as I request. Life is too short for us to do anything for each other out of those terms.
Sorry, Marshall, it's not enough for you. You want me to do this, but you would like me to be happy with this.
Yes, and unless it's meeting your need, unless you're doing it for you, don't do it, please. Don't do anything for me.
It looks too much for me. I'm willing to do this, but I'm not willing to be happy with this.
Yes, then thank you. Then it would be a bigger gift for me for you not to do it. Please don't do anything for me that isn't play. And it'll be play if it's coming out of Memnoon energy.
Marshall, what do you think of marriage?
We'll get to that in a moment. Let me...
I need those cards so I can give them to people to give to me. And one thing is sort of in response to David, a lot of times I will, in a response, I'll say, oh yes, I'd love to do that because that's what I've always said. And then 5 minutes later I realize, so
yes.
maybe checking in when you might start to notice.
You might want to then have one of those cards for yourself.
Yes.
That reads, before I say yes, I want to do an internal check to make sure that this is coming out of Memnoon energy, that there's not a slightest trace of these others, just to slow down and make sure you're coming out of that.
I'm wondering if you'd be willing to backtrack to the no, seeing the needs that are in a no, like...
No. So what need of mine might I have been expressing just now when I said no?
You have a need to do something different than what
That would be a
asking?
strategy, but what would be my need?
Autonomy?
Possible. So Marshall, are you hearing it as a demand and is your need for autonomy? And then I could either say yes, or I could say, oh, no, it's not so much that, but I have a need for clarity, and I'm afraid if I go to your question, I will lose the clarity that I had in mind. So would you be willing to wait? See? So in other words, it could be 100 different needs. But you, as the other person, know that until you hear the need behind the no, it's going to be hard to figure out a way for everybody's needs to get met. On the other hand, when everybody's needs are expressed and understood, the problem will solve us.
Thank you.
And I think that has to do with Jim's question about what is marriage. See, if you want to, pardon? If you want to have that, what's originally very beautiful, turn into something ugly very quick, define marriage so that once you are married, you have certain obligations and commitments. Commitments defined as demands. Now that takes what otherwise could be done joyfully and turns it into something ugly. But these concepts are very important to maintain domination structures. There's probably nothing more important to maintain domination structures than to teach people that duty, obligation, and commitments are the highest virtue.
So do you think it's that it's kind of like it's built in conceptually, like, well, we'll have this nice little free space where we can just express freely, and then when it really becomes real, then it will change over. There's sort of an unspoken agreement about that?
No, I think it's more like, some of you have heard me tell this, but let me tell it again because it's the most powerful way I know of making these complicated things clearer. It's about my son Brett and shoveling the walk for a The woman on the corner was not able to walk, and so she was dependent on her car for mobility. Whenever it snowed, he would literally race down, run down to the corner. He would stop anything else he was doing and shovel the walk. At our house, we had a tiny little walkway. It got done after my getting after him and telling him that when you're a member of a family,
Oh, God.
how could I be so stupid, you're thinking? No. But you see, when you are defined as a husband, wife, son, you have certain commitments, obligations. And so now what otherwise is a memnoon, you turn into something ugly.
I grew up in almost next to you. Same weather.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for my mother at 9, and she wasn't disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Explain that.
Because hopefully you had a memnoon relationship with your mother, so you gave out of the joy of giving.
And I didn't get an allowance.
Yes, you gave out of the joy of giving. You did it for yourself, not for your mother.
I don't think I did it for myself.
As I'm defining it, you did it for self-full reasons. Actually, I don't think anybody ever does anything for other people, even the people who say they do. I don't believe any human being has ever done anything for somebody else.
She needed to have the car uncovered, the walk cleaned.
And you did it because it met a need of yours to do it, or you wouldn't have done it.
I don't see that.
I know you don't, but then we have a difference on that. I don't think any human being has ever done anything for another person.
Marshall, suppose someone does the fourth response where they're saying, yeah, and you want to check it out even though they sound like they're okay, but, how would
What you might want to do for a while is what Sam Williams did and some others did after hearing me say this. They made these little cards, which now they're being sold all over the world. I'm sure Sam never thought he was going to be the inventor of such a thing. He heard me say in a workshop, kind of joking, what you'd say to people while you are making conscious the different definition of love that Giraffe is based on compared to what many of us have been taught. This basic concept of memnoon. I've been getting it across to groups this way. Whenever you ask for anything from the people you're the closest with, give them a card, and on the card it says, please do as I requested. Only if you can do so with the joy of a little child feeding a hungry duck. Please do not do as I request. If there is any taint of fear of punishment if you don't mix in. Please do not do as I request to buy my love. That is, hoping that I will love you more if you do it. Please do not do as I request if you will feel guilty if you don't. Please do not do as I request if you will feel shame if I don't. And certainly do not do as I request out of any sense of duty or obligation. So I just threw that out as a joke once, and this guy came up and said, repeat that, Marshall, I want to remember that. I can see how much I'm stuck in all of my relationships and doing things for all of those reasons. So he made a little card with that on it. Now these cards are being made all over the world, translated into every language, and there's a fun way to break out of this where you've had these other things mixed in. No matter what you ask for, you give it to the person and say, but before you do it, please read this. So you say at the dinner table, please pass the salt, but only after you see. So you raise the consciousness of everybody. Let's only give out of memnoon energy. Life's too short to give out of any other energy. But it's a radical concept because for domination societies to work, you've got to have a few people dominate many. And then you've got to destroy the concept of memnoon. That creates a revolution if people believe in that kind of giving. You have to get people to fear punishment and to do things out of reward. That's the only way you can dominate people.
I think I've done a number of things for other people, and
I think as I'm defining it, I think you did it to meet your own need to give, which is one of the strongest needs that human beings have. according to Viktor Frankl in his book Man's Search for Meaning, there's probably no stronger need that we have than to give out of Memnoon energy.
How does this sound? I did it because I loved her and I wanted to do it.
Then that's what I'm saying. You did it for yourself.
I did it for myself.
Yes. And then she doesn't have to pay for it. If you did it for her, she'd have to pay for it.
She never paid for it.
Then you did it for yourself. If you did it for yourself, she doesn't have to pay for it. Anything we do for others, we think we do for others, they have to pay for it. And if they saw how they had to pay for it, they would get one of these cards to give you very quickly. Please, no more of this. It's too costly. Please, 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 don't give it unless you're doing it for yourself, out of Memnoon consciousness.
But can that be a natural thing, though?
I think it is natural until we've been educated. I think if we weren't educated in the way that I was, I think it would have been a natural.
I'm a little in pain to be in a state to observe all this information to take in, because the conversation I had with a man in my life, last night I waited 30 minutes to get through his phone, and finally I got through. I asked, hey, you were on the phone 30 minutes, and he says, no, I was on phone 1 hour with his ex-girlfriend.
Yes.
And then I was even scared to ask as to what was going on.
So let's express yourself in giraffe to this jackal. Tell him how you feel at his talking to his ex-girlfriend for an hour.
I'm feeling a little scared to even ask what's going on, because I needed some emotional safety.
That's perfect. And now make a clear present request.
Would you willing to tell me where we are still in the relationship?
That I would suggest strongly you hold as your second request. I would want your first request to see whether he received a Memnoon. Because if he didn't receive a Memnoon from what you just said, you'll pay for it.
Would you be willing to tell me what you heard me say?
Yes, I heard what you're trying to say, is that I can't even have a phone conversation without you getting jealous and getting, I know you'd never pick a man that would talk that way to you, but I want to prepare you for the worst that you can get. Okay, so.
He's worse than that.
Oh my God. And I thought I was the worst man that ever lived.
Silence. Silence.
Oh yes, no, I know that game too. Yeah. Do a silence. I hate to be so cruel, but anyway.
So what I did, we just talk about other little things, and we usually end up our conversation in the phone calls, and I love you. He didn't.
Yes. Okay, so let's pretend, let's make it a little easier. Let's at least have this now the next time you see him and you want to talk about that hour telephone call. So now you've asked me what I heard, and I told you, yes, I can't even talk with another person for, a while, and right away, you get jealous about it. My God, you're making our relationship slavery.
So are you feeling annoyed because you need to do what you want to do at in your way?
So this relationship I'm having a little bit of hope for, because she didn't go into feeling that her saying what she did, causing this jackal's enormous pain right now. Because see, if she thought that she can make him unhappy just by a request, my goodness, she's going to feel her needs are toxic. Just the opposite, that her needs are a precious gift. So there's some hope for the relationship, because she didn't say, so are you upset I asked that? She just tried to hear what his need is.
Yes.
So say it again so we can all get that in our mind, never to hear you feel because I.
So are you feeling annoyed and stressful because you need some respect for your own space, and you can take care of your needs?
Yes, yes. I was simply talking to her for, some things that needed to be, I had to talk to her about. And, not a big thing.
Thank you for telling me that. Also, at the same time, I have this strong need for some emotional safety with you because I really cherish my relationship with you. Can you tell me what you heard me say?
You have a need for safety, emotional safety.
Yes, and would you be willing to tell me how you feel after you heard me say that?
I feel scared. Put some giraffe ears on this, Jackal. I feel scared because then I hear that in order for you to feel safe, I can't talk to somebody on the phone.
So are you feeling uncomfortable about my... are you feeling uncomfortable because you need some safety around our relationship too?
Yes, and that I can have the freedom to talk with people without it threatening our relationship.
So you feel you need freedom and safety in our relationship?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for telling me that. I'm feeling better. I'm done.
But we want to also we want to move through request to getting everybody's needs met, which are quite possible. You see, once everybody's needs are understood, everybody's needs can be met. For example, just in the interest of time, it could go this way. I certainly want you to feel the freedom to make these choices and not to feel that you can't, that it would meet my need, especially if it's going to involve the other person. Would you be willing to at least make clear to me what your needs were in talking to her, so I at least don't have my jackals go on a wild chase? You know?
That's very helpful.
Would you be willing to do that? But before you agree to that, do you hear a demand in that? I'm just really searching for a way to get both of our needs met. If that's not good for you, I'm confident if we can keep this giraffe dance going, we can both get our needs met.
Thank you.
I'm realizing for me it's one matter to identify the need, and then it's another matter to really appreciate the beauty in it.
That's probably one of the hardest things for most of us to do, to really see our need as a gift, especially with the training we've had for a long time.
So I'm wondering, I don't know your name. Kay. If you really saw the beauty in his needs at that moment, would you be willing to tell me?
For our freedom.
But did you see the beauty in that?
It takes a little while.
If she gets enough empathy for her fear, if she gets empathy from him for her fear, she doesn't feel that her need for some safety is a gift to him to provide that. So that means that he doesn't hear it as a demand. He doesn't feel threatened by it. He just hears her needs. If he receives that as a gift, and she sees it in his eyes or on the tone, then that's going to release some of her fear, that she sees that her need matters. And then she can see, I'll bet you much easier, that, yeah, who of us wants not to be able to talk to who we choose to, and certain freedom to do this. And then I think she's better able to see his need. And when he feels that that need is really understood, my prediction is the problem will solve itself. That it doesn't take a genius to find out ways of getting everybody's needs met when there's a certain connection made. The problem is we haven't known how to make that connection, yes.
Yes, and I guess what I'm saying is that the important piece of the connection is seeing the beauty of it right now. I mean, that's I guess my chunk of understanding is that there is no mem nu period if you can't really get the depth of that beauty.
Exactly.
Period.
Exactly. If you can't see
the need. It may sound
need,
obvious, but I'm
no, it's important, and I'm glad you stress it. Until we can see the need and the request as a gift, then anything that's given is people are going to pay for it. And it isn't easy to see it as a gift if we hear it as a demand, given our definition of marriage or relation, what it means to be in a serious relationship, it's hard not to immediately have our strong need for freedom, autonomy, threatened. See? So just like my son, it's easier to give to anybody else beside the person that you hear their needs as a demand. He saw the beauty in the woman at the corner's needs. One day his brother wanted to go down there and do it, and they had an argument about it. I'm not kidding.
So I guess that's the lump I need to get to when I'm in pain, trying to see that other needs beauty as big as mine.
And I've tried to look inside myself to try to find out, why do I still have so much trouble seeing my needs as beautiful? And it came to me one day because of how many people have given to me out of energy other than Memnoon. See? I said, am I afraid that people are going to say no? No, I don't have any fear of no. Hardly ever have people said no to me. I'm much more afraid of a yes. That people have given with that other stuff mixed in. So then it leads me to associate my need as a burden. Because that's what it becomes when those other things are mixed in. So without realizing it consciously, I've developed that association to my needs, that they are a demand, a burden, rather than a gift. Yes. And the thing is, what's even more frustrating for this is that it's seldom one or the other. You see, like my mother gave, I think, about 90% out of, loving to give, but 10% out of duty and obligation. So there were times when they're mixed, and then that makes it even harder to trust, you see.
I'll give you a very specific example. How do you dog for your needs and not make it a demand? Because I paid all the bills and put in all the money, and I began to feel like this major burden, and all I wanted was some help in paying the bills. And it began to be really resentful, like I ended up hating paying the bills.
Then you were paying the bills out of the wrong energy. You weren't doing it out of Memnoon energy.
So much better now. Not only did I do it wrong,
it's not my fault, Paul. I'm Jewish and I can't help inducing guilt. So this don't hold it against me.
It worked. So, I guess I'm looking for how do I like dog for my needs there without it ending up becoming a demand?
By early in the game, seeing your need as a gift and asking for support. So let's see you do that now. Let's go back before you were. I would have hoped that you wouldn't have paid one bill that wasn't coming out of really enjoying giving. So now let's say you're starting to feel uncomfortable. You have a need for some support. Now let's hear you ask for it.
I'm scared and frustrated because I want to be able to communicate with you in a way that it doesn't seem like a demand.
Yeah.
And at the same point, I really would love, it would mean a lot for me to have some support in paying the bills. It's feeling overwhelming. And I would appreciate you telling me what you just heard me say.
That you'd like some support with the bills.
Thank you. I'd actually like you also to hear another part of it, that I'm feeling overwhelmed and scared, and it would mean a lot to me for you to be able to help.
Yeah. And so it's scary for you and feeling some pressure, and what a relief it would be for you if you could have support.
Yeah, and the other side, the other part of my fear is that you might hear it as a demand, and then we would both pay a really high price. And I'm wondering if there's a way that we could do it that would bring joy to both of us.
So you're also wanting to be sure that, or hoping that I don't hear any demand in this, because if this gets resolved with either of us feeling any demand, you're worried about that not being good for both of us.
Absolutely. And for the people who receive the bills.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I'm torn now because I hear your need as a memnoon. Part of me does. And makes me want to give. But what gets mixed in with that is my feeling guilty that I haven't given more. And now part of what my wanting to give you is out of this guilt.
Yeah.
And if I give out of that guilt, it's not responding to your demand, it's responding to my inner jackal's demand. But I'm afraid we'll still both pay for it. Even if I don't hear it as a demand from you, if I still hear it as an internal demand, as fairness, as something you should do for somebody who's given so much to you, you'll still pay for it.
So I'm hearing there's a lot of fear in you that if you do this as a demand, that it will distance the connection and relationship that's really important to you.
And I don't know how to give purely that isn't mixed in with all of this jackal guilt that I should, because I see how much you've given, and now I make it not your demand, it's my own demand. But if I give out of that demand, you'll pay for it equally, because you'll still be associated this. I'd like to know what this touched in you, Paul, when I said this.
It'd be helpful to move on. I'd just like to sit for a minute.
All right. Anybody stimulated by what this partner said? Stimulate anything in others?
How does she get out of it? And that's...
Well, this is a cause, you know, sometimes in workshops I do sections that are some of the most popular ones. Nobody's asked for it yet, but we call it How to Enjoy Bad Sex. You see, now, but this is related to it. How to enjoy bad intimacy. And you can really do it if we keep this giraffe dance going. Because what could be more intimate than what she just shared? So, if we can keep it, this flow going, what could be better, really? Isn't this the most vulnerable? Isn't this as vulnerable as anything else we can share? So if we can share whatever's going on and have empathy from our partner and then hear what that stimulates in them, like the pain that got stimulated, this is going to be a wonderful interaction.
So, I'll just talk real loud. So in terms of the process, this is like a dense area. And so you just need to, this is a question now, you just need to sort of like really just slow down, give her empathy, and see what then opens up. Because initially, what came up in me was, God, I don't know where to go from here. So,
yeah, so we need to learn. Hopefully we're going to give you, enrich you all to get closer to being able to do this, so that in Paul's role, you see this as a memnoon right now. This person needs some empathy for this dilemma that goes on in them. So what's getting stimulated in you right now is real sadness, because you hear my request and you see the beauty in it. There's part of you that would like to respond to it, and then it's very painful for you when you see how much of your energy is tainted by this sense of obligation, or you have, yes, it's like I can't, I want to give, but it's hard when I feel all of this guilt and shame. And, yeah. And how do you feel when I say this? I feel memnoon, that you give me so much of yourself and give me a chance to meet your need for understanding. I feel touched. And now I'm looking inside and I'm seeing some goblins coming up, and I'm starting to feel really sad for some of the things I've said in the past that I think have accentuated that. And, oh, yeah.
That's exactly what ended up happening. It's like I would get more and more desperate and ask in ways that created more and more distance.
I can see how I've played on that. I can see how much in my life I use silence, knowing how that stimulates your inner jackals, and then I get my needs met, but I hate myself when I get them met that way, but I do it when I'm desperate. I don't know how to so could you tell me this back so I can, so if we have this dialogue, what isn't wonderful about it? Isn't it what we're all getting off on every day in these workshops? So you can have it ongoing.
This is two statements. When I talked about how I gave to my mother, just at the end I heard a comment, "Good boy," and I'd like to confront the person that said it and ask them who said it and why they said it.
I said it because it seemed familiar, and that if I wanted to be accepted in some way, I would do things because I wanted to be a good boy.
It wasn't meant in a nice way. With the tone, I heard the tone.
Because his own pain, that he was aware of his pain, that he has done things in the past to buy love. That's my jargon for the good boy syndrome. It's really to buy love.
Yeah, and that's what I've done all of my life.
So he was not criticizing you with that tone. He was aware of the pain that he had, seeing that he was doing so much giving to buy love.
Yeah, and that's painful because I lost myself completely in that, because I was looking outside to do stuff to be a good boy, and I never developed myself.
Thank you. That explains something. Because society does that. When you give out of joy, they see it as good boy, and they see it as you're doing it. You got some.
But you see, Jim, I think what I was trying to show you yesterday, you lend itself to that image because you were talking about what you did, which sounds like you're trying to show what a good boy you are, instead of saying what you were feeling at the moment you told that story.
But
if you could just tell the feeling, not the story.
Yeah, but I did explain why I did that.
But you didn't say right now what your feeling was. That right now, I still don't know what your feeling was and what need of yours was being met by telling that. And so when you don't make that clear, you lend yourself to these other projections.
Okay, I see Paul's situation.
But now you're back seeing. Can you just stay with present feelings?
No, my feeling is present to what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's what?
I got in a situation where I was.
No, now you're telling a story. You're off your feeling into the story.
Okay, I got in a similar. It was a similar situation.
Yeah.
How can I say this?
You're off into the story. It's no life in it for the group, Jim.
Okay, I felt.
No, not then. Now. Now, what need of yours is being met by telling this? When we don't hear that, Jim, it's just very easy to project all kinds of stuff.
I feel the same feelings.
What feelings?
The feeling of anger.
Yep.
Sadness.
Yeah.
Those seem to be dichotomous. I don't know.
No,
running together.
Don't worry about it. Let's just say what you're feeling. So, what need is behind them isn't being met? What need is behind the need of anger, the feeling of anger and sadness?
A need for appreciation for what I did.
Yeah. You want to celebrate what you did.
Because I did a good thing.
You want some celebration of how you contributed to life.
To taking care of 6 people, yes.
Yes, so let's just celebrate that.
Not 1, 6.
Yes. I can see why you have a need to celebrate that, how you gave to all of those soldiers that you were serving under dangerous conditions. And I can see that you have a need to celebrate how much you've given in life. So that's what we need to hear.
But I had a sadness and an anger because their response was in anger that I expected them to.
Because you didn't get the celebration, you didn't get the understanding you would have liked.
They didn't want to contribute. They just wanted to take.
So you're upset that your needs weren't as valued in your mind as you would have liked them to have been. and the needs of others. So when you see people just receiving and not giving, then that doesn't meet a need of yours.
Certainly doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
There's too much of that.
Yeah.
I really am impressed by Selwa's, this, and Earl's, this Nemnun and mitzvah. We need that.
And I want you to, I would hope you could have some real, genuine sadness for those people who don't know how to give, because they're missing something. And what usually happens, those people we see as just the takers, the selfish, they're so scared that they're not going to get their needs met. That all of their energy goes into getting their needs met, and they provoke images that they're selfish and greedy. And it's real sad that they haven't learned to give out a mitzvah. What would be worse than not to know how to give that way?
What you're describing to me is the story of Scrooge. The story of Scrooge.
Yes. And many of the people caught up in the capitalist system who can only think of getting money, and they're missing out on the joy of serving life. Can you think of anything sadder than that? To mistake accumulation of capital with the joy of mitzvah?
Well, I had a situation similar to Paul's around money, where I had asked my wife to, I'd been providing all the income and conditions shifted, and I had asked, her if she would, start contributing more. And this, it was like bombs went off. There was a response started with, "This isn't what we agreed when we got married," and then it launched. And what happened? My question is around dealing with what happens when you say something and then you end up with 2 pages.
It sounds like a good start of a wonderful giraffe dialogue. So all you have to do is have giraffe ears when the other person quotes legal terminology. See, but this isn't the agreement we had when we got married. So receive the mitzvah in that. That's a mitzvah. What is the mitzvah? If you hear the mitzvah, it'll help us all get clear what we haven't really resolved yet. What are giraffe-like commitments and giraffe-like agreements?
Okay,
so if you hear the need in this, it'll make it all clear for us.
Yeah. So I'm hearing, so I'm really hearing your need on how important it is for you to feel what you understood as an agreement really honored.
Yes, thank you for hearing that. That's very scary to me when an agreement, I fear that it's just going to be thrown out the window at any moment.
Yeah. Because, you told me I could stop working and homeschool my child. And
you told me I could stop working and so now, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so it's very frustrating. And if I step out of the dialogue, at this point, there's not just one word. She'll add to it's right following is none of my needs are ever met.
None of my needs are ever met, and this is not the only thing. And not only that, I'm not the only person that thinks this about you either. There's other people in the family that have seen the same thing in you, and then
and you've changed,
and you've changed, and all of this. Oh my goodness! Look at that! Look at that! A whole pile of memnuns. A whole pile of memnuns coming at you. Aren't you a lucky guy? Aren't you a lucky guy? Why does he not look like a lucky guy?
That's how they call it memnure.
So you need to slow it down and receive each of those memnoons. There's about 6 of them buried together. See, she's so generous, she just can't wait to give them all to you, so she does it all in one breath, you know, boom, diddy, boom, diddy, boom, diddy, boom, diddy, boom, diddy, boom. Several memnoons all in the same message.
So really, we have to just slow it down and
slow it down and hear each gift.
Piece
hear
by
each
piece.
gift.
Okay.
And that newer spreader.
And that newer spreader, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, like this one is a wonderful gift in an intimate relationship when you can receive. My needs have never mattered. No, it's only your needs that matter. My needs have never mattered in our relationship from the very beginning. So we'll slow it down for you. We'll separate that one out from the other. Because that's so beautiful, you wouldn't want to miss that one.
So you were feeling really angry and frustrated because you're really needing yourself to you're really needing to be seen and heard, and what your needs are.
That my needs matter, that they're valued. I've never had this.
So you have really tremendous grief around this.
Of course I do. My needs have never mattered, not in my whole life. Everybody else's needs matter, not mine.
So this is very, very painful for you.
Very painful. I don't even have a glimmer that my needs matter, that they could be. I was so angry at this discussion that I overheard about this memnoor. That's so bullshit. It's so far from my seeing my needs and how I see my needs. I just hated it when people said that. It's bullshit. If that's true, then why have my needs never mattered to anybody?
So you're very angry because you've heard all this conversation and you just didn't feel a connection to it.
How can I when my needs have never seemed like it mattered? Nobody seems to care about my needs.
So this has happened for a long time. It's gone on for quite a long time.
Yes. I can't even imagine what that feels like, to feel like my needs are a gift. I can't even imagine.
So behind this is you don't feel like anybody has ever really understood the depth of just how
that they couldn't see
painful
the
it is.
beauty in my needs. I just get angry when I hear that. It just sounds like New Age bullshit.
So this is something that's very precious. It's very beautiful that you just haven't.
I wish it was true, but I can't imagine it right now. So what would it take, really, what could I do? Because that need sounds like such a delicious memnoon. I'd like to contribute to getting that need met. Could you tell me what I could do? I can't think of anything more delicious right now than to do what I could to ask me twice a day what would make life more wonderful for me. Is that all? You don't do it now. No, I don't. Does this conversation sound familiar, Ava?
It helps me to just participate in this way, because so many times I'll hear the words and then I feel kind of paralyzed. It's like, where do I go from here? It's like I gotta fix it or gotta move it. And what I'm hearing as I do this is to slow down.
Slow down, yes.
I have a question about the process.
Yes.
Dave was being as empathic as he could be, and then there was a dialogue between the puppets. Is it correct that Dave might have said to you, what can I do?
Not too quick. Don't ask that question unless you get 3 signed notary statements saying I'm ready to move to problem solving. Because when you move to that, you are a fix-it jackal.
Okay.
Fix-it jackals can't wait to fix it because they don't know how to enjoy pain. And until you know how to enjoy pain, you can't enjoy intimacy. We'll make that clear this afternoon. You're not coming back.
Marshall, I have a question. Say, for example, I'm sitting with my partner, and she's going on and on and on about a story.
Yeah.
And I'm not feeling connected,
Yes.
one to myself and two to her.
Yes.
And I voice in the middle of her story, I say, I feel frustrated and don't feel connected to what you're saying.
Yes.
Now,
what's your present request? See, without a present request, any need can be threatening. It's easily heard as a criticism if you don't immediately, with the speed of light, add to your unmet need a clear present request.
So my request would be if you'd be willing to give me 2 or 3 minutes of time for me to think.
That would be one request you could do. And another you could do is stop other people when they've said one word more than you want to hear. See, I've asked 400 people one time, as part of my research on this, if you're using more words than somebody wants to hear, would you rather have them be a polite listener and let you continue, or stop you? And 399 out of 400 said, stop me even if I got hurt by it or upset. And the one other person, she couldn't make up her mind. She said she didn't know if she could handle it if people stopped her. But that led me to see that it is not a gift to anybody to let them continue talking when it's not meeting your need. They'll pay for it. So one way would be to stop the way you did and say, excuse me, but I'm impatient and so forth. The other would be to interrupt for the purpose of bringing them back to life. Take them away from what they're saying to what's in their heart that leads them to say it. That will be a gift to them, because if you were bored listening, they're probably bored saying it.
Amen. Well, that'd be a gift to children.
Yes.
Yes. It's a gift to anybody that when their words are not giving life, it's because they've gotten disconnected from what their present feelings and needs are.
So you would offer them empathy at that point?
Yes, I would say, excuse me, but are you feeling, so my first words out of my mouth is to go to what is presently alive in them that's the root of all the words.
But if I'm not feeling connected with myself and I don't feel I can offer empathy, then I would start with the first one.
Then you would start with what you did, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, the problem is most of the time that babbling goes on in a middle class culture, the need is for gratitude, recognition. And people are so brought up to believe that you shouldn't have that need. You should just give out of selflessness and so forth, that they're ashamed to admit that they have a need to celebrate what they did, to have some recognition for it. So they go on and bore people with all the stories, not realizing that's going to get the exact opposite of what they want. So we'll come back to this after lunch if you like.
This concludes our presentation. If you'd like to obtain additional recordings of Marshall Rosenberg or learn more about nonviolent communication, please call the Center for Nonviolent Communication in La Crescenta, California at 1-818-957-9393 or go to the Center's website at www.cmvc.org.